Welcome to the presentation about self and peer assessment in Blackboard Learn. We're going to start by reviewing the peer assessment from instructor's perspective, and then we're going to see how students interact and complete the assessment. So let's take a look at the instructor view. The instructor created the assessment either by importing the assessment from a zip file or by creating from scratch. We have just a short explanation that this particular assessment will be a peer assessment of group activities. So the scenario here is that a class of about 70 students is divided into groups of 6 participants or 7, and now at the end of the semester it is time for the participants of the team to evaluate their peers. I created an assessment here which is under the assessments menu, self and peer assessment, and if we just take a quick look at some of the properties. So let's take a look at some of the properties of this same assessment. We have just general explanation of what the students can expect, and then we have a set of dates. This assessment will have 3 distinct phases. In the first phase, students have to submit an item. Now it can be as short as a couple of paragraphs in a comment field. It can be a Word document. They have to do it within the window that's specified. So in this presentation I'm going to move this window so that in 5 minutes we can go through all 3 phases. But once the process starts, the dates are important. Once the submission is made by a student and there is a pointer, something that can be assessed through criteria by other students, the next phase would start, which is the evaluation. Within the evaluation, I selected that there will be no anonymous evaluations, which means that students can recognize the names of other students. Now this is important in our scenario because when the group members evaluate their own team, they need to be able to select who was on their team. So this is why we have to select no anonymous evaluation. There will be no self-evaluation in our scenario as well. And we are selecting 74 submissions. Not that students will evaluate all 74, but from the entire class they need to be able to select who was on their team. So they might select only 6, but we will show them the entire class. Okay, so with this detail in place, we'll go ahead and return to the assessment. I will continue with now the student view. There are other details within the group participation assignment which we'll review later, like the criteria that students use. So now we'll log in as a student user, and the student logged in. Now the student will navigate to where the assessment was deployed, click on View Complete Assessment, and in the first phase they just have to submit the placeholder. So there's just short instruction at the bottom. Click on question 1 to get started. We'll go ahead and click on question 1. And this is where we prompt the student to explain their contribution to the project, and perhaps the student will say something like documented our work. I was present at all meetings. Okay, again, as other Blackboard assignments, we can attach files, so this could be a work that's prepared ahead of time. We'll go ahead and submit. Now, while the submission window is open, or time frame is open, the student can go back and actually edit the submission. Once the submission window closes, the role of the student will change. So now we'll go ahead and go back to the instructor. Earlier I used 2 other students to also submit an assignment. So now we're ready to go ahead and modify the window, and make this evaluation time. So let's go ahead and change the end date. We'll change the end date to the 17th, and let me just see our current time here. Okay, so let's change that to 17th at 12:30 a.m. and we'll begin on the 17th at 12:30 a.m. Okay, so this will advance our process to phase 2. In phase 2, we'll go back to the student view. When the student navigates to the assignment, they now are going to be prompted with a different view. Now they can see all the students in the class, and it will be up to them within our scenario to select the students who are on their team. And so I recognize the students who are on my team, and I'll go ahead and click on a particular name. And the student explained their contribution, and now as a student I have certain criteria to go by, and there can be as many criteria as necessary. I just have one criteria for my team, and this criteria is spelled out. We are asking students to evaluate the work on the scale of 0 to 15, and we also ask the student to track specific calculation of the points and to provide at least one high and one low response. So this particular student seems to have contributed well. Again, I can relate by the name of the student and also their comment. Further, I can use perhaps the picture of the student if the class maintained maybe a blog where pictures were uploaded. So I will go ahead and submit a full grade of 15. And so now I can see that I scored the student. I'll go ahead and locate another student, go ahead and make the selection, and this student perhaps did not participate as well, so we'll go ahead and score the student with a 1. And finally, I can preview a list of students, but that's the entire list now that consists of my team. So this student has completed the assignment, and the next phase will be for the instructor to review all the grades and to approve them. Now other students, I'll go ahead and just click through that momentarily. Other students also have now opportunity to grade, so let's go ahead and do that. This student continues to receive the low marks, and my next student, see my test student, let's find this here. There we go. Here's my test student who just a moment ago entered this submission, and we'll grade them maybe at 10. The student did well. Excellent. And let's do one more student. So we'll go ahead and log in, and the student will continue to give high marks, and there we go. Here is my other student who perhaps will receive another grade. Okay, so now that the evaluation process has ended, we can go back to the instructor view. We'll go back to properties, and within the properties we'll go ahead and conclude the evaluation phase. So let's go ahead and select time, which will be in the past now. We'll say submit. Okay, now that evaluation is completed, the faculty will navigate under course tools to the self and peer assessment. Now within this control panel, faculty are able to view submissions, view evaluations, so keep their finger on the pulse, but finally they can see the results. And now that evaluation has ended, Blackboard will be able to calculate the averages for all the submissions. So by the time the grades are committed to the gradebook, they are averages of all the submissions. In this particular example, with 70 students within the class, the process does take a little bit, so the calculations take some time. So now that Blackboard calculated the averages, we can preview the scores, and if necessary we can actually update them, we can correct them. Now most of the students here did not complete the evaluations. There are only 3 students who did, so in a moment we're going to go ahead and preview them. Notice that we can download all the submissions, and to complete phase 3 we would send results to the grade center. So the results are not automatically moved to the grade center just because the time for evaluations expires. The faculty still have time to approve submissions to make sure that all students received evaluations. Now we're ready to preview the evaluations. As I scroll down, I can identify which students received them. I was using 3 test students, so there are 2 evaluations per student, and you can see that the averages were being taken. So now I can submit these results to the gradebook. I'll go ahead and send them in. So our results are now submitted. We can now navigate to the gradebook, and here I will preview my group participation, and as you can see, the 3 students which I used for this exercise have group participation grades which are averages of the grades that they received from other students. Thank you.